Welcome to Pandora's Awareness Podcast, a place where we collect stories and circulate life-changing wisdom. I'm your host, Asher, and our guest today is Ace. And you're here because we get to talk about failure, our theme of today, failure. We get to share some stuff with you today for the folks that are listening. And also, Ace get to talk about failure on his side of the house. So, Ace, if you don't mind telling us
Mm,
where you're alien from, what you specialize in, how you add value
yeah,
to the world, and who you're being a hero to.
right on. Yeah. So I am from Boulder, Colorado. I just moved here probably, I don't know, 9 months ago or so. And I am a sexologist. Well, I'm a somatic sexologist. And so
Mm,
basically what that means is I help people land into their bodies and then experience more pleasure in their life. And so I am a certified sex coach and I work with the erotic blueprints and kind of helping people just get the sex life that they would like and desire.
mm. Okay, and then who you being a hero to?
Yeah, and being a hero right now to trans individuals. So people
Mm,
who want to transition female to male or male to female, and
mm,
anybody that's in the queer community. I feel like there's not enough representation for us
mm-hmm,
to be our authentic selves and to live out of that space. And so I've made it kind of my mission to share my story really vulnerably, the
mm,
failures and the wins that I have, right? So that
mm.
people can learn from my own mistakes and also can see that there's other people in this world that are going through the difficulties that they're going through as well.
Well, that's incredible. You know, it's funny. My one of my guests yesterday, she is a sexologist. She's in Singapore. We're like, man, we could have synced up if I knew. Could be like
Next
both you
time,
guys on the same podcast, but
yeah,
she's out in Singapore and she does something similar to what you do. Different
mhm,
being a hero, different audience.
yeah,
But she was talking about her journey too, as far as being in Singapore and some of the censorship that happens out there with her and trying to do
mhm,
her work, so forth and so on. And she started a podcast and all that other stuff. But yeah, it's
yeah,
interesting. So I have another conversation I get to have today on somebody that's a sexologist.
yes.
Now, if you had to drop us right now and talk to us about some of your major failures in life that you want to start with, like how do you get here to this location where you're in life and some of the stuff that you want to start with as far as failure, what would that be?
Yeah, yeah. So I grew up in a really conservative Republican Christian household,
Mm,
and I learned at a really young age to just deny myself. And what ended up happening was I stored a lot of pain in my body, and my life crashed and burned about 3 years ago. I lost
mm,
everything because I was unable to be my authentic self and also acknowledge my emotions and my feelings around my identity and my gender.
mm-hmm,
And so, because of that, I had a really hard season in life where there was a death of an ego. And I went through some really, really difficult things that I think a lot of people go through. But
mm,
it was like intense.
mm,
And I became really angry, sad, hurt, numb, and disassociated. And I was unable to connect to humanity because I felt so broken and
mm,
worthless and unlovable. And so I had gotten myself to a point where I was suicidal and
mm,
I didn't want to be here anymore. And I didn't know my passion. I didn't know my purpose in life. And I abandoned who I was. And so when my life completely fell apart, it was actually a gift from the universe to kind of realign where I was headed and what I was doing with myself, put myself first. Because I think a lot of times when we deny ourselves, we deny our desires, our inner longings. We're not being true to ourselves. We're not being authentic to who we are. And the world needs to hear who we are. Like
mm.
there's a reason why we're here, and our own individual uniqueness is really important. There's something really special that this world needs because of that. And so, yeah, through that failure, I ended up becoming a sexologist and helping
Mm.
other people really just understand that societal norms, the rules that we live by, they're kind of made up, right? And we can choose how we live our life. We can choose to make the decisions that we need to make in order to live a fulfilling life here on earth right now, right here, right now.
Mm. You know, when you said something that everything is made up, I love this. Dan Sullivan, he has this book, I forget the name of it, but inside the book, it has this three rules. It says, these are the three rules that governs life. And he was like, uh, no one is in charge.
Mm,
Everything is made up, and life is
mm,
unfair.
Mm.
But when he breaks it down, I was like, you know, you can think about it, you know, you can think about people that kind of travel through their life, you know, because you think the opposite of that, right? The opposing thought to that, right? If you think nobody's in charge, people think somebody's in charge, right?
Hmm.
And then if you think about like stuff is not made up, like it was designed a certain way, or you think on the other side of it is no one's in charge. Life should be fair. And when you
Mm.
think about those opposing side of it, and you go back to the other side where it's like, hey, nobody's in charge. That means everybody's in charge. That means you are in charge, right? And then when you're saying everything is made up, that means you had the power to make shit up too. Because if you think as far back as possible, you're gonna go back to then everything that you know, somebody made it up. It came from one person that said this is
Mm.
gonna be an idea, and everybody get behind it, create some kind of system, and made it up. And same
Yep.
thing, life is unfair because when the universe was designed, it didn't design with you in mind. It was
Mm.
just designed, and you show up, and stuff was here. So now you get to adjust yourself to what's been designed already and make it, you know what I'm saying, adjust and fit into life where you want to fit into life. So that kind of hit me
Hmm.
when you talk about nobody in charge. But when you were
Yeah.
just when you was sharing the story, I was curious to know like on this whole journey, like who did you find when you
Yeah.
get through your life? Who did you find after you
Yeah.
found?
Yeah, so here's the interesting part. I was in a really strong community for the
Mm-hmm.
first 38 years of my life. I gave my life to that community and served them.
Mm-hmm.
And when things started to fall apart in my life, they were nowhere to be found. And I felt
Mm-hmm.
myself very alone and I had no support. I had to figure it out on my own. And so what I did was I hired three professionals to come alongside of me
Mm-hmm.
and kind of help realign me in my life. And so I hired a doctor, a therapist, and a sex coach.
Mm-hmm.
And they journeyed alongside of me through some of the darkest moments of my life so that I could have support and care and compassion. And I think the most important part was allowing all of myself to exist in that space.
Mm-hmm.
Because for my entire life previously, I was hiding who I was. It wasn't safe for me to be me.
Mm-hmm.
And for the very first time, I had complete strangers who knew nothing about me. They
Mm-hmm.
had no agenda for me or my life. They just wanted me to feel loved and cared for. And so all of me could exist. The really strong emotions, the things that I was really shameful about, the desires that I had that were considered unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I could bring them to light and express them and feel the emotions and feel the sensations in my body, which I think we're naturally supposed to do. I don't think we're supposed to suppress those desires.
Mm-hmm.
It's super unhealthy for us. And so finding those people, the people that aligned with me, that could hold space for me and offer unconditional love and acceptance for who I am, is what was the game changer for me.
I agree, my friend. It is exhausting not to be you. Like
Hmm.
just imagine trying to be somebody else your whole life. It's very exhausting. That has to take a lot of energy. And
Hmm.
I'm curious to know, like, when you say you found yourself, like, who you actually found within you?
Yeah. Ooh. So when I found myself, what ended up happening was I went on a journey towards radical acceptance for who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I realized that I'm not bad, I'm not broken, I'm not sinful, I'm
Mm-hmm.
worthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm worthy of love. And I went on this journey towards unconditional love for myself, love for me, from
Mm-hmm.
me, like true intimacy with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And what ended up transpiring from that was unconditional love and true intimacy with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Because it just gave me that space just to be myself and to not hold any conditions towards anyone else. They have their own journey that they're on, and they have their own experiences. They have their own life story. They have their own purpose. And so holding space for other people to be who they are authentically, and then also holding that for myself, is what really was transformational through this process.
Mm. You know, you got me thinking about my oldest brother.
Mm,
I remember when I came from like Jamaican culture, very
mm,
phobic culture, right? And I remember when my brother first came out, like he was telling the story of like how difficult it was for him,
mhm.
right? His whole life and being in a place where he can't talk about that stuff, man. He
Yeah.
would take your life, and he was telling how tough it was for him and how much courage it took for him to like say, this is what it is,
Mhm.
and that was, I was like, man, that takes a lot of courage because If you apply that same kind of courage to everything else in life, oh my God, it's game changer as well too. Because it takes
Yeah.
a lot of courage to come out in a space where people might sever ties with you because of this.
Hmm.
And then you end up being by yourself, and then people judging you so for so on.
Yeah.
It's a lot of thing that happens to birth that new identity that you wanna transform into, you wanna apply yourself into, but then
Hmm.
it's kind of hard for you to do it. And with any identity that you take on, you need a community to support you in that identity as well. That's when you say you hired those three
Absolutely.
people. That was very
Yeah.
smart of you to do, because that new identity is like a baby. It's a
Hmm.
newborn. You gotta build a confidence in that identity, and it takes a
Yeah.
community to do that. It takes a lot of
Absolutely.
parenting from people that can support you and cheer you on. So when you
Hmm.
did that was a very smart move, by the way. When you say do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we all desire connection and
Mm-hmm.
belonging, right? And so when my whole world fell apart and I lost my community, I lost the connection, I lost the belonging. Like there was this piece of me that was longing for someone just to ask, who
Mm-hmm.
are you? What do you want to do? What is your purpose on this earth?
Mm-hmm.
And then to acknowledge like who I am and
Mm-hmm.
say, yes, that's who we need in this world. And to accept me exactly as I show up. Like I wish that I would have had that opportunity as a kid to feel into that, to lean into that, and to really grow and evolve who I was, instead of masking who I really was.
Mm-hmm. So if you gotta share with some of us who are some of your heroes on this journey of really like
Mm,
taking a hold of this thing and say, this is what I'm gonna embody for the rest of my life. Doesn't matter what the cost, what the price. I'm gonna
mm,
embody this purpose. Like, what are some of those heroes for you?
yeah. Oh man, I have so many. Lately it's been people like Alok. I don't know if you know who that is. That's a transgender person. They
Mm-mm,
live on the West Coast. Um, I think they're an Indian background, and so they grew up in a household that it wasn't okay for them to be themselves either.
mm-mm,
And they came out of that, and they are so eloquent and loving.
mm-mm,
They've created like a culture of love, just like that, just flows out of them as they engage in the world. And that's who I aspire to be, somebody who's not broken and bitter and angry and
mm-hmm,
sad or mad, whatever. Like I want people when they interact with me to feel a calming presence and to know that I'm safe, I'm
mm-hmm,
trustworthy, and that I have their back. And so those are the types of people that I look for, the people that are, pulling up a seat at the table and saying, hey, I want you to be a part of my life, a part of my journey, and I want to give you the platform to be able to, share your story. Because the culture that we're in right now, it's so divisive. There's no unity. There's no, hey, let me help you. You're
mm-hmm,
down. Life knocked you down. How can I help you? It's the culture today is it's all about me and what I want, need, and desire, which is great,
mm-hmm,
but there's an impact, right? There's an intention and there's an impact that flows out of that. And my impact and my intention is that I create a culture of love where people feel like they can be their authentic selves and really do something great in this world. Um, yeah.
mm-hmm. What does authenticity mean to you then?
Mm, yeah. That all of you can exist right here, right now, right?
Mm,
You don't have to hide it. You don't have to lie. You don't have to mask. You can just be yourself. And if you mess up, it's okay. Like don't
mm.
sweep it under the rug. Like what's there for you to grow from?
This is a very challenging question for a lot of people to answer. When somebody says, "Be yourself,"
Mm,
and in a space where a lot of people like, "I don't know who I am," then who should I
mm,
be? That's a very
mm,
that's a very challenging question for some people to answer. Like, hey, just be yourself, and then the person's like, I don't know what that self is.
mm.
And when did you finally like? When did you know that self this and I call it self is like an acronym for me. It's a significant energetic life force, right? The thing that's
Yeah,
within us. So
yeah.
the self that you want to be, that somebody say you're supposed to embody, like how do you know what that self is? Like when did you know yourself
Mm,
was this? When did you know
yeah.
that?
Yeah. So I had a session with a somatic sexologist probably 3 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
where I had an unbelievable like awakening.
Mm-hmm.
I was numb and disassociated, and I was not in my body. I was not here in the present moment. I was
Mhm.
thinking about my past or I was thinking about my future, and I couldn't just be here right now with everything that exists.
Mm.
And in that session, I dropped into my body probably for the very first time, especially as a trans person. That's something that all of us really struggle with. I think queer people struggle with it as well. But
Mhm.
it's really significant for us is that we're not present right here, right now. We can't feel, we can't
Mhm.
connect to ourselves. And so for me, it was that awakening moment of like, wow, this is what it means to be in my body, to be present right here, right now with whatever's existing and feeling into those emotions. That was the groundbreaking moment for me.
Mm. I was thinking about this too, by the way. And
Yeah,
I think it was Never Goddard. You know him?
I don't.
Okay. Well, I listened to some of his stuff, but he was having this conversation about how, like, who we are, like, beneath the flesh, beneath this thing
Mm-hmm,
here. It was like, he said it was like, what happened is, the society, culture, so forth and so on, they trap us into these different labels, right? They trap us into it, like they trap me into my color. They lock me into my color and leave me trapped there. They lock me into my gender, leave me trapped there. They lock me into these religion, and then I'm trapped there. So they lock you into all these organization and say you are
mm-hmm,
this, but in the end, you're above all those organizations. You're above the organization of sex, the organization of color, the organization of religion, so forth and so on. We're above all those organizations. So if you're above those organizations, that means what? Those things are just something that we take on. So
mm,
now if you go at the depth of all of this, you're like, okay, so who am I really? If I'm above the organization of sex, color, religion, so forth and so on, who am I?
mm,
Then
mm-hmm.
what would the answer be for you if you had to think deeply about that?
Yeah, just a human, right?
Mm,
A human with a soul
mm,
that has some sort of energetic pull and force within me that this world needs.
mm,
So as I go through that flow of life, like, can I ebb and flow? Can I be present in the moment? Can I sink into some of those really painful moments and be really present with someone who's hurting or myself that's hurting? Like,
mm.
yeah, I
So
don't
no,
know what's the answer for you.
no, I was thinking about it where if we're above all these organizations, but then you come down and you figure out which organization that you want to represent, like which one organization you want to represent yourself through. Like, do you want to
Mm,
be this? Do you want to be that? It's a choice now, right?
mm,
It's a choice you get to represent yourself through. So which one do you want to identify with?
yeah,
Which
yeah.
organization you want to identify with. And so a lot of us depends on how we look, how we feel, that determines what identity we want to take on.
Hmm.
So that's what pops up for me.
What would be the answer for you in that question then?
For me, so I do appreciate my melanin. So I say, sure, I'm a black man, I'm this, I'm that, right? Or
Yeah.
I'm a male, like what I call it, I'm a male, like the masculine energy, the male energy.
Mm-hmm.
I like that identity. I take that on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to like religion and stuff, so I don't really identify religion because I understand what religion is. It's just another
Mm,
organization, and some of the organization that's set up they just don't really like. It doesn't align with my like how I want to love the world. You know what I mean? How I want to
mm-hmm.
see the world. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what that shows up for me. But I would never, um, what they call it, believe or disbelieve somebody when they say this is how I want to identify myself with the world. Like that's a
Mm-hmm.
choice because in the end, I see us all above all those organizations. They're just
Mm-hmm.
something that we talk. Somebody made those up, right?
Yeah.
Somebody made them up and say, "Oh, we can identify this way." Well, okay, cool. I can make something up as well, but I don't understand what my identity is, what I
Mm,
represent. What is my
mm-hmm.
flag? If I want this to be my flag, represent me. This is my
Mm,
flag, and
mm.
this is what flag I'm flying. It's That's what I see organization
Yeah.
as.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, I don't love those labels, if I'm most
Mm.
honest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't really want to be identified as a trans masculine white person. Like, yes, that's who I am, right? But I don't want people to see that when they run into me. I want them to see Ace. I want them to
Mm.
see a culture of love, someone
Mm-hmm.
that's safe to be around, someone that genuinely cares about them as a human and has an established trust with them or is establishing that trust with them.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be a safe human. I don't want any of those those other labels really when it really gets down to the nitty gritty of it all.
And that takes a lot of courage to go against what already been made up.
Hmm.
We go back to everything is made up. So so what's already made up, those systems is what we gotta like you gotta think about like, okay, so now
Hmm.
how do I fit my own identity outside of those systems? Because oftentimes the masses
Mm.
follow systems and
Hmm.
people organize and protect systems. And
Yeah.
oftentimes that system does not oftentimes is an upside for not everybody. Like some
Hmm.
people, some system are a downside for. You know,
Hmm.
not all systems are upside for everybody. So you got to recognize that too and figure it out. So it takes a lot of
Yeah.
courage.
Yeah, it does. It absolutely does. I mean, we live in a culture right now where we're all trying to figure out who we are, right?
Hmm. Hmm. That is the biggest. But I'm gonna go back to the other place too, because I was having this conversation. I forget who it was. Maybe somebody in my podcast. And yeah, it was a lady too. I was explaining to her. I was saying I was saying you would never know who you are. She was like,
Mm,
because she was like, I'm going up just to figure out who I am. I'm like, and I asked her, who you think you are? She was like, I don't know. And I was
mm,
like, that is the most honest answer you can ever have for me
mm,
personally, because that is the actual truth. You would never know who you are. You will only know what you have,
mm.
because who you are is undefined, which means you can be anything, you can do anything. Because the answer to that question would to say something, but tomorrow again, that thing is going to change.
It's
So
ever
when I
changing.
see
Yeah.
somebody, I see somebody as a spiritual being, meaning that spirituality cannot be defined. It's undefined. It's an undefined entity. So therefore, that makes you an undefined entity. Just like say, if you believe in God, whatever, right? If God say God is this, then God will be limited, because what you can define is limited. So therefore, you are undefined. You're unlimited. So
Hmm.
now you decide to be whatever you want to be, and in that space, you will never know who you are, because whoever you think you are, you're something else, and you're going to be something else again. So therefore, you should accept the identity that I am undefined, but I can
Mm,
choose to be whatever I want to make
hmm.
up to be,
Yeah.
right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think that all just comes back down to the point of I am. I
Mm-hmm.
exist, right?
Yes, yes. I am. Whatever I am reveal itself to be.
Hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Hmm. Any more failures? Talk to me. I know you got some more.
Oh, I have so many failures. What are you talking about?
Uh,
Oh, man.
next runner up. Next runner up. What's the next runner up? Hmm.
Let's see. Hmm. Hmm. I don't know. I don't know which one to
Okay,
bring
so
up.
tell me something that you've tried for a lot of years, and for some reason you just feel like you could never get it right.
Yeah. Uh, so one of the things I think that I've tried for many years is to
Mm-hmm.
be successful,
Mm.
right? To like prove that I have worth,
Mm-hmm.
to prove that I am somebody that somebody should care about, that I'm
Mm-hmm.
the big deal, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I, I think so many of us is on that journey. And well, this is a good one to talk about, because I'm sure you probably do a lot of this. There are oftentimes, like, say progress, you gotta to measure progress, you gotta measure it backwards, right? So
Mm,
then when you look at
yes.
your life as far as, trying to be successful, but then not recognizing that you are successful, but
Mm,
but because a lot of time we measure success based on where we are to the gap. We're measuring the horizon from where we are to the horizon, not really measuring
mm,
from where we started from to where we are now.
mm,
And what I recognize for myself too is I didn't know, I didn't feel like I was successful. Even though I did 22 years in the military, I did a whole bunch of stuff in my life, whatever. The success wasn't feel like, because I was measuring it based on where I was trying to get to. I'm like, I'm still not there. And it's like chasing the horizon, it's like chasing the speed of light. Einstein says relative. So the faster you go, the faster the speed of light moves with you, because it's always moving, right? So same thing with the horizon, it's always moving. So therefore you will never catch it. Because the more
mm.
you get, the more you want, and you would never be satisfied. So then we gotta go back and measure. So I gotta go back and measure, like, where was I 20 something years ago, 30 years ago? When I was in Jamaica, I didn't have a lot. And if I travel from the time of Jamaica to here in the United States where I'm at right now, I've done a lot for myself. So there is
Mhm.
success there. So I gotta go back and measure the distance from where I started to where I'm right now, and I can see, okay, I made progress. Like, how much progress
Absolutely.
did I make? So then if you gotta go
Yeah.
back and measure your
Mm-hmm.
distance traveled to this point in life, looking back at
Yeah.
all the ways you was like, man, I want to be myself, but I couldn't get a chance. So, but no, you are. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what part of that is successful for you?
Oh man. Yeah. That I just get to live that out now for the rest of my life, right? Like
Mm,
I don't have to play to anybody else's game.
mm,
Really, the choice is mine as to how I want to move my puzzle pieces or move my chess pieces for the rest of my life, right?
mm-hmm.
It's up to me. Like, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? What do I want?
Yeah, that's pretty profound in a way because if you think about it, your progress, not just in your personal life, but the environment around you as progress too, where maybe 20 years ago you probably couldn't be yourself,
Absolutely.
but now you can. You can be you.
Absolutely.
So no,
Yeah.
that's a lot of success because now like the freedom of putting on that boulder, man.
Hmm.
Like you say, you live in Boulder.
Yeah. Yeah.
Putting down that boulder, man. That's just the idea of putting on that boulder for that you've been carrying for so long, right? That is a
Absolutely.
relief, my friend.
Hmm. Yeah, the
It's
weight's
that's
been
a
lifted
relief.
off. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's part of the success.
Mm. So good.
Yeah, a lot of people have carried that boulder for a long time. I think about my brother. He carried his for a very long time, and
Yeah.
that will make you sick.
It does. Yeah. I mean, I was at the point where I was suicidal, right? Like there are
Hmm.
people that I had chronic pain. I ended up this is not part of my story that you know, but I ended up paralyzed because
Mm,
I was so repressive of my emotions and my feelings and everything else. Like I didn't know where to store it, so my body stored it and
hmm.
took on the pain, right?
Mm. Tell me about that paralysis moment. Tell me about that, man. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
curious.
yeah. So I had a low back injury from like 2000, I don't know, like 8 or so. And I had been kind of nursing it for like 10 years. And it got to a point where I went jeeping with some friends and
Hmm.
I jacked up my back and
Hmm.
I was unable to walk for a while. Like I could walk like 4 or 5 feet and then I would just fall to the ground in like intense pain because my spinal cord was being compressed.
Hmm.
So I had back surgery. I healed from that. I went on vacation with my family. I thought I was good. I had just gotten the all clear from my doctor on Friday. And on Sunday morning, I woke up and the right side of my body was paralyzed and I was in extreme pain.
Hmm.
And I was on a remote island. And so I had to be emergency evacuated from the island. And I took like a 4 hour like ferry ride
Hmm.
and ambulance ride. And it was crazy. Got brought into the emergency department and I had emergency surgery. And what had happened was I had a bone spur that pressed into my spinal cord as I was healing
Hmm.
and it cut off all the circulation. So, had I not had the surgery, I would have been paralyzed for life. But what ended up happening was they did the surgery and my spinal cord decompressed. And within a couple of days, I had feeling back and I could move and all that. So it was pretty crazy.
Hmm. And what was it? What was on your mind at the time?
Well, my whole world was falling apart. So it was like, shit, what am I gonna do? I mean, I
Uh,
didn't have a support system at that time, right? So I didn't have any money at that time either, because I had just lost my job. So I mean, there was incredible physical comfort. There was incredible social discomfort, and there was incredible mental discomfort through that. And so what I ended up doing was I just asked myself, like, what's causing the pain,
mm-hmm.
right? Like, and I started critically thinking about like, how did I end up where I am right now? Like, how
Mm-hmm.
did I get here? And then what am I going to do to get myself out of this situation?
Big question. How did I get here? That is my favorite question for the last 2 months.
Mm,
How did I get here? Because
mm,
I think that's I think everybody should write a story, like to really talk about their journey. Like, how did I get here? Because some of us are privileged. We got here. So how did you get here? Do you really know?
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And did you know what actually got you here?
yeah,
To show appreciation to that version of yourself.
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm, yeah. Just reflecting on that is awesome.
Mm. So, hmm, if you had I know you mentioned the paralysis piece,
Yeah,
but when you actually, came out and talk about yourself and being open, like what was that family support system like?
yeah. So as I came out, this was hard for my family, and I get it. This is not something that they've ever experienced. It's not
Hmm.
something that happens in our community. There was no one in my community that had transitioned or had, expressed these desires. And so there was a lot of really hard conversations, just of people who couldn't understand what it feels like to be trans
Hmm.
and to have compassion and empathy for it. So I still talk with my family, but it's really difficult because they're grasping and they're trying to understand where I'm coming from, and they can't get there, right? They love
Mm.
me, they care for me, um, but I think it's really difficult for anybody who hasn't had these feelings and emotions to fully understand what it feels like to be in this place of
Hmm.
um, not being able to, yeah, just understand my gender identity and expression and orientation.
Mm. How was that like in school for you?
Yeah, so as I was growing up, I just repressed it all, right? So I lived a typical normal life. Um, and so there was a lot of internal pain,
Mm-hmm.
but it was nobody ever knew about it. And some people might have questioned or asked or like wanted, like wondered, like, hey, like you're not married yet. Everybody else in our community is married. Why haven't you gotten married? Well, it's because I couldn't be my authentic self and I couldn't get close enough to someone to actually build that relationship because I didn't love myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had to learn how to love myself before I could love someone else.
That is so true. That is so true because and, and we have a lot of people like that in the world
Hmm.
that doesn't doesn't love doesn't love what they see in the mirror, and then it's very hard to ask somebody else to love somebody that don't know who. Because I don't know, like to love you, but I don't know who to love
Hmm.
because you don't know who you are at the time. Very
Yeah.
difficult,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
because you gotta show like this is the person I want you to love, but then I don't know what that person is, so then I can't tell you. I can't even point you with a love because first you gotta love that person so the person can see who
Hmm.
you're loving and love that person
Hmm.
too. That's very
Hmm.
difficult. Very
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult. Yeah. So that means you're right when you say how suicidal people because hey, if the physical form that I am in, um, I'm confused about or I'm not sure or it doesn't fit in the community that I show up in, then I
Hmm.
might as well go back and come back. Right. Let me go back and come back, get another body because for some reason I showed up in the wrong one. Right. It's just, these dynamics, right? It's like, okay, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. I popped up the wait a minute, you know? Yeah.
Something's off. Yeah, something doesn't fit. Puzzle
Something
pieces
doesn't
aren't
fit.
fitting
Something
together.
doesn't
Yeah.
fit. Yeah, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Can I go back and come back? Like this, yeah. But now that you said this is what I want to be.
Hmm.
This is who I want to be. How hard has that been for you so far?
Yeah, it's been super easy once I made the decision. It was
Mm.
getting to that point of that awakening within myself to say, I'm worthy enough to do this for myself.
Mm.
And once that happened, everything changed.
Hmm. It's like
Like
it just
a flip of a switch, right?
you made a decision. He says, I'm gonna live or die by this.
Hmm.
I think that's how everything else in life is. Once
Mm,
you decide, and you're like, it doesn't matter, I'm gonna die doing this.
yeah.
It changed a lot of stuff. Just like,
Hmm.
it's like, building military, sometimes I'm out, like, sometimes you like in a place, you're like, I'm gonna do this thing if it takes my life, so be it.
Yep.
And automatically that switch your brain from like wondering, like, okay, now we gotta
Hmm.
focus on I'm gonna make this thing happen no matter what.
Yeah.
But when there's a conflict, it's kind of hard.
Yeah. Well,
Mm,
when it's the only thing you have,
mm,
right?
mm. Decision is important. Desperation, inspiration. If you don't underestimate desperation too, because it can get you places.
It can. It can be a
Yeah.
great motivator.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yes, it totally is. Hmm. So, hold on. So you got siblings?
I do. Yeah, I have five siblings. Yeah. Mhm.
Hmm. What number are you?
Take a guess.
The last one?
I have. Yeah.
You're the last one. Oh my God. How did they feel? If you don't mind sharing.
Yeah, so most of my family doesn't even know that I transitioned. Um, because I mean that's a really complex
Mm-hmm.
reason. But I mean it's partly because of safety. Like I just don't feel safe enough to tell them. Um, their worldview is very different than mine at this point in time.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I were to tell them, I don't know if it would really matter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it could matter if they wanted to change their ideas and their perceptions of what it looks like to go through this. And
Mm-hmm.
I honestly I haven't given them the chance because I haven't told them. So maybe in the future that will happen. But for right now, in where I'm at in my life, I needed to find a place where I felt grounded and safe.
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't feel that way with someone else, I'm not going to put myself in that situation. So it's a protection. It's a setting of boundaries, setting the expectations for the relationship, protecting myself. Um, I think a lot of times what happens is we do things for other people to make them feel better,
Mm-hmm.
right? But then we sacrifice ourselves, and we create a pain for ourselves that may not need to be there. And so through this journey, I think that's what I've learned is like there comes a point where I need to put myself first, and I need to allow myself to be fully who I am. And if I can't be that with someone else, I might need to sever ties or distance myself at the minimum from that person simply because it's not healthy for me.
Mm-hmm. I think we all deserve to live. And
Mm.
sometimes people don't even know what that word means.
Mm.
Like,
Yeah.
I deserve to live. That means that there's a part of life that's worth living.
Hmm.
And a part of that is like living you, like being you. And
Yeah.
if you're gonna go through life and never live you out, then hmm.
Hmm.
So like, hey, I don't care. Like for the next, you say you're 30 something years old, like like say this right. So I picked the day I want to leave planet Earth, and that is on my 86th birthday. And if I get to 85 and the universe says, actually, just your body's still strong, your mind's still sharp, we're gonna negotiate another 1 or 2 decades, right? Whatever. But I picked number 86. And I was like, for the next 42 years of my life, I want to live on Asher's term.
Mm.
And I want to do the things I want to do. You know,
Hmm.
I did my time in military. I committed to that time. I'm out of it. But now I'm like, guess
Yeah.
what? I'm gonna commit this next 4 decades plus to Asher stuff.
Hmm.
So then I get to live me,
Mm.
right? And I'm gonna do it no matter what. Same thing. You say, okay, you know what? I'm done trying to please the thing that everybody made up, the system that everybody made up. I'm gonna live my terms now. And yeah, I get to do it.
Hmm.
Get to live and see what that
Hmm.
is like, what that experience is like. Because if you don't, then it's not fair. You're supposed to get to
Yeah.
live too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. We exist, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and we should have that ability to live our lives on our own terms, whatever that might look like for us. As long as
Mm-hmm.
we're not hurting somebody else,
Yes.
let's
Yes.
be able to get curious and let's be able to live and make mistakes and have failures in our life and grow and learn and evolve and
Mm-hmm.
be who we're supposed to be. We're human. Let's have the
Mm-hmm.
human experience.
Mm. So if I had to ask you this other question, normally it's a question I ask on Thursdays, but I'm gonna ask it today. If you had to travel three, 'cause we know we talk about you said success, right? I want to tap in that because you mentioned the word success earlier. Like, if you had to travel 3 years into the future,
Mm.
what would have to happen for you to be happy with your progress in life to that point? If you had to go there and share that with us.
Yeah. Yeah. So 3 years in the future. Um, hmm. I think success to me would look like more people being able to land in their bodies and be present in the moment that they're in and
Mm,
express their true emotions. So if they're sad, hurt, happy, joyous, whatever that might be in the moment, for them to feel like they have the ability and the safety to live
mm,
from that space. And so for me, success means I'm helping people find that in their journey and land in their bodies and really be present with whatever is here
mm.
now. Yeah,
And you'll be happy with your progress at that point if that's
I
happening for
would
you.
be. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I have clients right now that are numb and disassociated and they're not really living life. I mean, you can see this all over the world. You go out to McDonald's and you see people that are on their phones or they you can see it on their face. They're sad, they're depressed, they're hurting in some sort of way. And they're trying to escape that
Mm-hmm.
by being on their phones or being
Mm-hmm.
distracted by watching Netflix, whatever it might be. If you can just feel into that emotion, into that feeling, into those sensations out in your body for 90 seconds, those things will dissipate.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually live in the present moment with whatever is arising. And so, if I can help create a culture where it's acceptable to feel any emotion that comes up in the moment and you're safe to do that,
Mm.
that's success to me.
You just put it out there.
Mm,
Yeah, you just did. Oh
mm,
my God. Okay. Hmm. You know, you have been thinking about something else too, because I'm working on this process. It's like I haven't given the proper label yet, but it's 10,000 words to describe to me how you got here. So I'm working with, doing anthology books right now with some of my immigrants because my target audience is the people I want to work with, people I want to be a hero to. I want to be a hero to immigrant veterans who wants to be entrepreneurs. Or if you're just
mm,
an immigrant or a veteran or an entrepreneur. I'm a
mhm,
three in one, but if you are separate, I can still work with you, right?
mhm,
But it's the idea that if you can put down how you got here in 10,000 words, I can really get to know you. So no,
mm,
I'm working with people and so we're doing the same project. So each person get 10,000 words, we do an anthology, put the story together, and then we get to share it, right? But then it's the process of going through it and writing because I realized that, because I got a couple books out too, but I realized that it's not the publication itself, it's the actual process of writing out the stuff. And so we go through the process of writing out each other's story and they're writing theirs out, we go through it back and forth. And I can see that journey from like, oh my God, I'm saying this stuff. But once you say it and you put it on paper and you look at it again, it's not what's in your head now. It's different. And then when they look at it and they read it and emotional stuff hit them, and it's like, well, I can't be mad at that person that did that because now I see the words, the sequence or the combination of words I put together from that experience, and I look at it and it's like, I didn't see it the same way when it was in my head. And that
mm,
stuff moves me because when I did it for myself, I was like, oh my God, that is what happened. Even when I look at my own story and I measure what I've done, it's like, wait a
mhm.
minute, I've done a lot. But in my head, it didn't look like that. But when I wrote it out, it's like, wait a
Mhm.
minute. Like
Yeah.
I'm depreciating Asher. I should be appreciating me. I should increase the value of me, right? So I start so this process of having other people write their story, we get together and write it, and we work through the process. It creates the appreciation that people are looking for. Like the value of the
Mm,
story goes up now,
mm,
right? It's no longer being depreciated. It's like the story is like gold, like stock. It's like a stock. It's like the value is appreciating. It's going up,
mm,
and the more you write, the more you organize, the more it goes up. So I'm a person, I'm a big on like after that I become an advocate of you gotta write out what your history because it's your intellectual property. Like you
mm,
own it, you create it, you write it out, put it out because somebody want to see how you got here. Like, Ace,
mhm.
how did you got here? And you're gonna tell them in a way that they can read it and follow it and like, oh my God, I see myself in your story. Wow.
Yeah. Mm.
Have you written a book?
I have not written a book. I have it drafted out, but I haven't published it.
Okay, good. Good.
Yeah.
You're on your way. You're on your way.
I'm
Yeah,
on my
it's
way. Absolutely.
You gotta share that. You gotta share that because people
Yeah.
people are looking for stuff like that. Like if I'm on my phone, I want to read somebody's story. I don't want to like scroll into boom, boom, boom. I want to read something
Hmm.
that's gonna take me to a state of that person's journey itself. I'm like, wait a minute, that person was here, did really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it gives us an opportunity to really understand and appreciate the culture that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of times what happens is we're trying to have divisiveness. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're different than me, or you have more than me, or whatever. We're throwing all these stories out there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you sit there and you hear somebody else's story of what they've been through, their life story, their triumphs and their failures, your perception of them shifts
Mm-hmm.
and they become a human, right?
Mm.
You can relate to them. So it's not this other person out there that like it's me versus them, it's us.
Mm. And what you also get to see You get to see the enemy that they experience mentally and the enemy that they experience physically, so on and so on. They see that stuff and he's like, wait a minute, if I was attacked by that thing, I probably did the same thing they do too.
Yeah.
If I was put in that situation, I probably would have made the same decision. So now you stop judging, like, wait a minute, because all you see
Hmm.
is just my appearance. You don't see what happens mentally, what happens, what I, you know what I'm saying? All the decisions I had to make.
Yeah.
And when you see
Yeah.
the opposition that I faced over my journey, you're like, wait a minute, if I faced that same opposition, I might have made the same choice at that age, so forth and so on. So now
Yeah.
I can't help but to love you because if I was you, I would probably do the same thing. So I can't judge you anymore.
Absolutely. Compassion and empathy for that person's story.
Yeah. That's the way I gotta share a story. Either written,
Hmm.
verbally, so forth and so on.
Yeah.
Ace,
Powerful.
man, it's been good. It's been good chatting with you.
Yeah.
We gotta
Thank you
wrap
for
up.
your
We gotta
time.
wrap up.
Right
So
on.
if somebody hear you right now and says, Ace, man, you're my hero, and
Mm.
I wanna connect with you, how can I reach you?
Yeah. So acekipton.com is my website. And so you can find me there. You can find me on all the major platforms. So TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I'm there. So
Mm,
reach out.
perfect. And if you had to wrap up the conversation we had so far and title the bow on it,
Mm.
what would be your biggest takeaway or giveaway?
Yeah. Unconditional love for yourself.
Mm,
Unconditional love for you, from you. That's where you're going to find true intimacy.
mm,
Nowhere else.
nowhere else. And last question. What is that one thing and two thing when people do it drive you crazy?
Driving slow in the left-hand lane.
Travis, this is you gotta drive Audubon style, man.
Get out of my way, man.
Get out my way, man. Put that ludicrous song on, like, whoa, you know what I'm saying?
Totally,
No,
totally,
no.
absolutely.
I
Uh,
can relate.
yeah,
It's funny. It's funny because because I lived in Germany for 6 years, and I was like, I love that rule when I was there. Like, you get in the left, get back in the right. Like, you stay in the right. If you're not flying 100 miles per hour, you get out of the left lane. You stay in the
yep,
right lane.
yep.
But then I came to the US. I was like, oh God, I did 6 years. I'm like, man, I get to the US. Everybody was like sitting in one lane. I'm like, oh my God, like get out the way. Just move over. You're not, two cars like going like this together. Like, what is this? You know?
Uh,
But yeah,
drives me crazy. Yeah.
totally makes sense. Cool. All right, Ace, it's been a pleasure, man. I learned a lot today from your journey as far as you talking through your phase of phasing in yourself back into the space of being you and living your
Yeah.
life you want to live and just
Mm,
deciding you're gonna servitize with those that are not lifting you up. I was at an event like 2 weeks ago and there was this lady on stage was talking and the love she was getting, I was asking myself, what is different between me and this lady?
mm,
She's famous, but what is different between me and her? And the answer to that question was she got more people lifting her up than pulling her down.
mm,
And I was like, I gotta go build a community of more people lifting me up.
mm.
And
And
we
who
all
can
gotta
you
do
lift
that.
up?
Say again?
And who can you lift up?
And same thing.
Right?
Yeah. It's all
Mm,
about that. So oftentimes we get trapped in places where people are just tearing us down and we never get to really shine. Nobody really get to
hmm.
know the true us. But when you
Yeah,
get people that edifying, lifting you up, building you up, and you get to do the same, powerful.
absolutely. Thank
All
you for
right.
this
Any last
conversation.
words?
Thank you for the conversation. I've really appreciated it. It's been a good time.
All right, same here. Folks, you tune in Pandora's Awareness Podcast, a place where we collect stories and circulate life training wisdom. And with that, you heard from Ace today. If you want to check him out, contact him based on this information we just put out earlier. And what's the information again, Ace?
acekipton.com is my
All
website.
right, acekipton.com. With that, folks, make it an awesome week.